Hi, in this video we're going to get stuck in. We're going to create our first workbook, add some information to it. We're going to name and rename the sheets. We're going to save it as an Excel document and then as a PDF for sending up the line, and then close and reopen our workbook. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is close this workbook I'm already in, which is showing you the contents. So if I go up here to the X, that's closed it for me. Okay, start a new workbook. Go to File and New, and instead of choosing a recent template or a preset template, we're going to start a blank workbook. Double click on that or hit OK, and you'll hit a spreadsheet. So this is a standard spreadsheet. It goes from column A, and if I hit Control and right, it takes me to the end of the spreadsheet, and that's to column XFD. That's effectively how wide Excel is. Control left takes me to the start again. Control down takes me to row 1 million or just over. Control up takes me to the start again. So that's how big a spreadsheet is. We don't want to use all of that. Right now we just want to enter in summary reports and have a data sheet to support it. So each of these blocks are called cells, and you can enter information into these cells. You can enter numbers or text or even calculations known as functions and formulas. Right now we're going to keep it really simple and make up some data for a weekly report, which we're going to pretend we send up the line. So let's start. Weekly report. That's the title. And I'm just going to enter that in cell B, and then I'm going to click down to B5, and I'm going to put in a title name. Now do this just by typing in the text I want and hitting enter. I'm also then going to put a title in amount, just as if I'm drawing up a table. So let's put some names in here. Suzanne. Sorry, to edit this I just click F2 or double click in the cell, hit the backspace. Sean, enter. Mark, enter. And Joanne, enter. And here I'm using the arrow keys to navigate instead of my mouse. Under amounts, I'm going to enter 500 for Suzanne, 200 for Sean, 600 for Mark, and 450 for Joanne. Now let's call this a weekly sales report. So up here in my editing bar, I can scroll over the text that's in there and call that sales. Enter. And that's just edited that cell. So this bar at the top here allows me to also edit what's in the contents of this cell. Okay, now I could make these bold and give a nice underline and a nice table with a sum, but that's not the purpose of this video. We want to keep it simple right now, so we're not going to do anything fancy here. We're just going to call this sheet, instead of sheet 1, we're going to call this spreadsheet by right clicking and clicking rename summary. Another way I can rename a sheet is by double clicking on it. So here if I click on sheet 2, which is the whole same thing again, a standard spreadsheet sitting next to the summary sheet, I'm going to double click and call that data. Sheet 3 I don't need, so I'm going to click on sheet 3 and right click, delete, and it's gone. Oh wait, actually I've just decided I do want a sheet there. I'm going to click on that again over here, and that's created a sheet. It's called it sheet 4, but I'm going to call that instructions. Okay, now let's go to the data sheet and say, well, what is the data that supports, you guessed it, our summary sheet? So Suzanne did 500. What's the information that supports that? Well, let's put in some more info. So we're going to create a column and call that name. We're going to call this column amount. And we're going to call this column when or date. And this column to who. Or maybe customer. Okay. So Suzanne. And let's go back to get the names again. Suzanne, Sean, Mark, and Joanne. Now, if I double click and highlight those 4 cells by dragging my cursor, I can go Control C or right click, copy, and then click on the data sheet and hit Control V or right click and paste. Okay, under the amounts, I'm going to go back and do the same thing again, except now I'm going to totally use my keyboard because that's the fastest and quickest way of doing things. Control C for copy, data, Control V. And I'm going to say the date this happened was the 1st of December 2011. And this was on the 3rd of March 2012. This was on the 5th of March 2012. And this was on the 6th of April 2012. This was to customer ASDV Limited. This was to Mackey's. This was to Ivon and Co. And this was to Sarah Jane Fashion. Now, to get the cell to group around the text I've just entered, because the text is longer than the cell, you just go up here and double click on the edge of the border. It will automatically resize the cell. I can also double click, hold it and drag, or right click and decide what width, etc. by going to column width. I want the column. Now that's the data that nicely supports my summary. I'm going to leave the instructions page for now. So back to summary. I'm happy with this report now and I want to send it out. First thing I want to do though is save it. So go to File, Save As, and here under My Workbooks on my desktop I'm going to save this as Report Week 30. Now I can save this as .xlsx, which is the standard 2007 or 2010 workbook or Excel workbook, a macro enabled workbook, which there are no macros here, a binary workbook, not relevant for this, or a 1997 to 2003 format workbook. That's an old version of Excel, we don't need that either. We're going to choose the .xlsx, and that's probably the one you're going to use the most often. And then I'm just going to click Save. Right, that's saved. Let's come out of it and go back into it. Do that by going File, Open, locating the folder that it was in, and clicking on the report and Open. Now, I want to save this as a PDF to send up the line. So let's save it again. File, Save As, drop down, search for PDF, save that, and then an Adobe document pops up and you can see the summary of my report here, the page, weekly sales report, name and amount. I'd need to be on the other sheets and save those if I wanted to save the document or the detail sheet as a PDF. Right, come out of that. It's really as simple as that. You can see how easy it is to enter in information and save it. That's all you need to know for this video. Hope you enjoyed it.